Namaste, everyone. I'm going to give you Kundalini Yoga for the Wild Man Initiation. This healing session is directed towards men, but women can also participate. The Wild Man Initiation is the rite of passage of manhood into a man's personal power. So a boy starts out in the world. And in the world, the boy learns domination, submission, status quo, learns his identity, his ego by working hard, competing, winning the game, right? The game of the world, playing the game. And there comes a point in a boy's journey, right, as he gains these credentials, he gains these awards, he gains these possessions, has these experiences, right, with sex and money. There comes a point in the boy's journey where he reaches the glass ceiling with all of that, right? So he can have all kinds of different experiences with sex, right? Exploring his sexuality, his sensuality, and practicality, right? What it means to be a man of the world, right? To hold a status, to be competitive, to win, right? So my ego, I need attention, right? I need validation. I need to be reassured by the world that I'm a man, right? So I need to control. I need to attach to the world, right, in order to feel puffed up, right, as a man. So it's designed like that for a reason, right? Why boys are eager, right, masculinity, right, that's not gender specific, but masculinity in general is drawn to the world for a reason. The world is masculinity's sense of mastery, right? So there's I want to control power, right? In sex and money is power, right? So when a boy is a part of the world, when he starts to become a man, he self-initiates himself into practices that involve self-control and self-discipline, right? So that whole sort of grabbing the world, right? The ideologies, the religions, the mindset, the fixation, the fixed way of thinking, a lot of times there can become a glass ceiling, right? Where or boys becoming men, they start to expand beyond worldly matters, right? And usually that's when they start to self-initiate them into the self-control, right? And that's a practice of soulful philosophy, right? So a man's personal power begins to blossom and begins to raise, right? Like the raising of Kundalini, right? When he starts to take accountability, ownership, take responsibility, not necessarily for this and the other when it comes to the outer appeal, the persona, right? The identity, the ego, when it comes to him, right? As a soulful, philosophical being, right? So a lot of boys, regardless of age, right? I'm not thinking of a boy as in a 16-year-old. I see boys who are like 45-year-old, right? Where they're deep in the world, right? With the sex and the money and the experience of this, sexuality, the sensuality, the physicality. But when it comes to the soulful or the philosophical, they're out of touch, right? So there's an imbalance in this person's life, right? And these boys can kind of compensate for this imbalance by trying to control even more, right? So something doesn't feel quite satisfying, there's something discontent, right? Because there's something imbalanced, right, going on, and we try to compensate by just controlling more, right, of the environment. And when that becomes directed towards self, right, that built up frustration that we all have being in the world, right, the anger, the frustration, the grief that kind of comes with being in a world that, let's be honest, there's a lot of deception, there's a lot of charlatans, there's a lot of tricksters in many ways, right? And a part of why men go into the world like warriors, right, why warriors go to battle, is so that they can learn the enemy and self. And it's not so much about going out there and seeing everybody as your enemy and being paranoid, right? And then creating this constant, freaking, what we call constant fret, right? Constantly vexed, right? We go into the battle, masculinity goes into the battle, which is the world, right? The world presents this battle, right? And the man initially goes into the world in this kind of battle with it, and whatever enemy. The man can see the father as an enemy, right? Can see the society as the enemy, can see a particular facet of society as an enemy, right? So that fire, that frustration basically becomes the man's fuel, right? His breath of fire, right? That kind of naval sort of adjustment that's created when the boy becoming a man starts to connect that fire to the heart energy, right? And the heart energy for women, how we, the heart energy, the fire of the heart energy is our kind of domain, right? While the man's domain is the world, right? And battling the world, battling yourself, battling the enemy, right? So that you can gain some kind of grit. And when you start to put that into yourself, right, as a man looking in the mirror, that's when he initiates himself. When a man looks in the mirror, he starts to take the enemy that is his father or society or his boss or his wife, right? And he starts to see the enemy within himself. And that becomes where the point in the boy's journey becoming a man, where they starts to raise the heat that he has in his belly, right? That restlessness. I have this sex, I have this money, but I'm restless, or I feel dissatisfied, or I don't feel complete, right? As a man, I don't feel embodied, right? To just be a person, a man, a male body. But there's another thing to be embodied with the masculinity, because masculinity has principles. There's sort of, there's principles. There's sort of a practice and a sort of cosmic intelligence to masculinity, right? So the male body, right, and masculinity, they must connect and join, because you could have a male body, but again, the masculinity, right, is something we have to build within us, right? It's not something that's just necessarily given. These sort of principles, they're embedded in us. The frequency is held in the male body, but it's like you have to work on it, right? You have to practice it, right? Like a warrior in many ways isn't just born a warrior. There's either incarnations of that, and there's a practice of that to really embody that, right? To develop it and to honor that within yourself, right? So when a man starts to honor the masculinity of himself, right, that he is a male body, is when he becomes a wild man, right? And the wild man sounds exactly right. It is exactly what it sounds, where you'll see these men, like, the whole like ripping off the shirts and like just sort of, I have kind of imagine him walking across the we call the firestones, right? And that's an act of, it seems like an act of kind of pulling away from worldly matters, which can be programs, heavy programs that has caused this man, right, to be limited, right, in how he can express. So when a man kind of reaches the capacity when it comes to worldly matters, it's like, I want to break through the glass ceiling. And how he does breaks through the glass ceiling is he tests his limits. And that's when men, when they get the sex, they get the money, they start to control that, they start to feel a sense of power in their ego and their identity. It's like there's a sense of wanting to expand now as a man, and that's when the masculinity and the male body begin to kind of integrate into each other through, I like to see like the walking across the firestones, right? Which is basically a great symbolic message of a man beginning to develop personal power, which personal power, a boy doesn't necessarily is drawn to it, and other maybe men who have gone through the initiation and have gone to the other side, which is about personal power is your self-control, right? It's like you can live as a man very simply, very neatly, with no attachments, right? You're not in these programs of drinking from the Kool-Aid type of thing, but you're still very secure as a man, and you feel very even content as a man. So the liberation, that sort of early stages of a self-initiation, that wild man, is basically when boys becoming men, to begin to kind of uncage the wild man, because a lot of times that wild man is dormant, right? And it comes out within young boys, like it shows its face, right? Where there's like, we talk about this life force, right? When this man has this great life force, we women are drawn to them, right? And it can, right, it shows up when the wild man is out, right? And as women, we're drawn to it, right? Because the femininity within us is drawn to the power, the masculine power, and the masculine power is drawn to feminine power. So when a man is really in his navel, right, and not in the navel as the raising of the fire, right, the raising of the fire, the breath of fire into the heart, we're really drawn to that. Because that basically, when we see that happening within a man, we know that he is embodying a deeper life force, right? So our experience with him will be a lot more dynamic, and it will be a lot more received, right? Because he's the fire, the breath of fire is raising into the heart energy, right? So the wild man is basically when the man is like, he just wants to be free, right? And men as women, we are very much like peace, right? But men, they're like, freedom is like adventure, right? When you're testing your limits. And that's why masculinity within women and men, right? Because it's not just gender, it can kind of cross through genders, as we know, but masculinity is all about breaking the glass ceiling. It's all about testing your limits. It's all about mind over matter. So the wild men, you'll see in a lot of these men who are initiating themselves, going all the way to the indigenous people, you'll see these brave acts of testing your limits, where it's kind of like life and death, right? When we think of the self-initiation, in the way that you're getting very connected to the earth, right? And that's why men are seen, masculinity is seen as a hunter, because in order to hunt, you have to be very close-knit with the earth. You have to be able to have heightened senses to smell, right? There's an animal, or be able to have a heightened sense of nature to track animals, right? Or you have to have a heightened sense of animal patterns, right? Cycles, rhythms, seasons, phases, these types of things. So, that kind of crosses over to current day men, right? The same kind of hunter, right, is about the getting in touch with your senses, but your instinct. So the wild man, right, is kind of like this freedom. Like, I want to have this freedom. So when a boy's in the world, the sex, money, learn a lot about that. Learn about status quo, learn about domination, submission, learn about the culture, the religion. But when he begins to unlock the wild man, he starts to get a sort of soulful and philosophical understanding of not just the world, but masculinity throughout time and space, which is different. It's not in the dome of just, I am a man, I'm a white man in this society with this sort of religion, with this type of background, with this type of credential, right? Men naturally can be very linear in that kind of way, but the wild man is like, he is just like a Native American dancing by the fire, right? There's something like a fire, like his fire ceremony. When you see the wild man, you always see some sort of fire around, like a wild, you see the wild man just dancing like animal-like around a fire, right? And that's, again, another symbolic message of him basically sweating, burning off any deception that he might have sort of taken on from the world, right? As he's trying to build up his ego. So it becomes an ego transformation. And that wild man is basically the ego transformation. So you'll see a lot of boys becoming men. You'll see, all of a sudden they're focused on this type of money, sex, status quo, domination, submission. I want to control, gotta get it all controlled. And then you'll just see this point where all of a sudden there's just this bold act of freedom, where all of a sudden they're starting to have a self-control. No longer is the enemy outside of themselves. They're starting to wrestle with the enemy inside. And then that is expressed through some sort of personal power activity that the wild man has, right? Every wild man has some sort of activity that they're drawn to. And there's so many. I like to see horseback riding, bareback, skiing, rock climbing, surfing. There's so many kind of living on the edge. That wild man is like living on the edge, right? That basically is important for men, even if they're, in the world, have their type of day-to-day routine. It's still important for them to have that expression of the wild man, because that is what really raises the fire of the navel into the heart, right? When the wild man is like in the snowy mountain, right, on some sort of journey, right through the snowy mountain, and there's this grand moment of like a power surge that happens, that brings about this great fire in the heart, which is a soulful, sort of philosophical, like profound connection to that mountain, right? And then he returns back home from that mountain, and he's just like completely transformed in the way, like he's like so expressive, and he has some sort of poetic sort of artistry to him, because the wild man is a man's pathway towards that sort of poetic artistry, right? That sort of emotionality, right? That, as women in femininity is greatly drawn to, right? These men, I'm thinking of Native American women, right? When we're seeing the men and they're just like animals sort of, dancing around the fire, right? In their sort of drumming ceremony. It's very, it's very poetic, right? Because instead of men like fighting each other and like butting heads and using that naval fire to destroy each other, they're actually using it to destroy the sort of thing that's the ego, right? The ego sort of control, and that you're the enemy type of thing, and start to put it inward, and you could see them sort of getting a control over it, whatever paranoia, whatever addiction, whatever habit, whatever mindset, fixation. And that becomes extremely empowering for the whole community, the whole tribe, because you're taking that I versus you, that natural competitive, like kind of masculine approach to dealing with things, and you're taking it and you're raising that fire into the heart, and you're starting to move that, right, into a sort of expression, right, into a sort of animal movement where you're working the enemy out within yourself. So that makes a sort of soulful and philosophical, it develops that within a man, right? And, that's a self-initiation. When you see the wild man come out, and in the wild man, it basically is the part of a man that takes full like control over his life force, where you really start to see he's breaking through, he's testing his limits. He's the mind over matter, right? There's a sense of he's in some kind of practice with the mind over matter. So when we as women, see that going on, we should know that is the wild man, that mind over the matter, that, testing my limits, right? Every single man has that, right? And has everything to do with building up personal power, right? Because there's power, and then men feel powerless to power. You know what I'm saying? So there's this power that, a man's ego must interact with and must have a sort of association with. But then there's like the powerlessness men feel, because they feel very restricted, very limited. And then there's the personal power that actually creates, generates the power the ego really wants to be fed, right? Which is not necessarily, this deceptive power, this sort of, obsessive, addictive power. The personal power feeds the ego, right, of a man, as a boy becoming a man. It starts to feed the ego a sort of teachings on the sort of cause and effect, karma, teachings on sort of cosmic laws and principles that govern not just the world, but the bigger picture, right? And that's when you see the integrity of a man, right? And no longer feeling weakened by the seeming, the dominating, controlling power, right? No longer weakened by it, no longer quite fearful by it, right? There's a sense of, I'm plugged into a greater power source than just this, almost like a bone that is, hanging in front of men, and they're like, that chasing the bone, but they can never get the bone. So it's this power thing, power struggle, power competition. It's almost like it's not even real, because it's like, you can't get it. But when men start to plug themselves into the earth, not the world, the earth is different. They're plugging themselves into an even greater power source. That the world is actually, the original power source comes from this earth element, right? With the cycles and the rhythms and the phases, and that we're connected to like a more tribal, instinctual type of power, right? And, the world is linked up to that. And that was the sort of founding blocks for the world that is constantly basically deconstructed and, reconstructed by the principles that govern the earth, right? These cosmic energies, right? So the soulful and philosophical man, he begins to plug into that, and something that actually we call substance, or something that, is substance in the way where there's a sense of confidence. And that's the warrior. When a man has a sense of confidence, he's not so much weakened by his insecurities, right? To the point where he's really tied and attached, and really sort of absent-minded, or even sort of losing his instinct, right? He's losing that instinctual, intuitive gift that all men have, because he's caught in these insecurities with the enemy that is his dad, and the enemy that is boss, and the enemy that is society, right? And that becomes this unplugging into the earth, right? Through that kind of activation man has through getting, testing the limits, right? And that can be surfing, kayaking, canoeing, testing limits that really bring out the wild man, which is in a the bringing out the wild man is simply bringing out the ability to trust the earth, to listen to the earth, and to actually surrender one's ego to the earth. And that's the real sort of test of man when he's walking across the firestones, right? Is the surrendering of the ego, which is the constant, why am I doing this? There's no purpose, that kind of ego of the world. That's like, couldn't be bothered, could be, just doesn't want to pay attention to, right, the sort of instinctual nudges, right, that's just, I don't believe in that type of thing. And when the ego of the man surrenders to walking across the firestones, we'll say, that's when he begins to raise the fire at the navel into the heart, and that's when his poetry, his expression, and his sort of unconditional love becomes, basically burns into his ego, marks him, right? As a boy becoming a man is marked by unconditional love. It stains his ego. And then you start to see out of we call the ashes of the fire, right? Out of the ashes comes this embodied man, this embodied person who has the world, but also has the soul of the earth, right? So there's a sense of balance where, yes, the masculinity must have knowledge on the world so that he's not deceived and tricked by the sort of game of it all, right? The magic show, the play, right? The play of it all. But he also has to be linked into the soul of the earth, because that gives him instinct, that gives him life force, that gives him this infinite supply of energy, right, that he may need, that kind of confidence that he needs, that sort of access to cosmic laws and principles and karma, and so that he can really sort of join the seeming, spiritual, philosophical laws and principles that govern the whole universe, and begin to sort of integrate them and apply them to his status and his stature and his sort of standing in his position within the world, right? And that's what we call like the chief is plugged into both, is plugged into the goddess of creation, sort of femme consciousness, right? But also plugged into the world and the great sort of battle that's happening in the world, because there's always some kind of, enemy or battle in the world, right? That he must be aware of, that he must be attentive to, right? But needs, right? And this is the chief, right? But needs that kind of the soul of the earth, that type of karmic insight, foresight, right? Ancient sight, futuristic sight, evolutionary sight, really, to instinctually, like a hunter, sense his way through himself and the enemies, to master the enemies. Because, we always say you don't go head on with a man, right? It's like there's this sense, like a hunter, you sense it and you kind of come at it in a way that with the enemy itself, where you're not letting the enemy know I'm coming right at you. And that's what kind of men have with the enemy in themselves, right? they kind of like the chief. You don't let everybody know what you're doing. You don't put all your hands and in on the table, and there's something like the instinct, the sense, as you get the sort of sense of the best maneuver that you can take, right? And that's why the instincts of a man lets him know, again, of the risk of taking such hunting act, right? If you're hunting, there's a risk, or you can sense the other sort of dangers around you. And that's a man understanding the dangers around him. But he has to be in touch with the earth. He has to be sensual. But in the world, men can lose the sensuality, be almost numb to their sensuality, because of the inability to listen to it, to actually feel into it, because the fire of the navel, the breath of fire of the masculine's navel, it doesn't raise into the heart, which gives this sort of this boom, right, of this sort of like a satellite, this kind of boom that receives in all of these visions that he can either trust or he can deny, right? And the trusting and the denying of them creates his reality, right? So that's the mind over matter that basically becomes the initial self-initiation for a man, where you'll see him like curious. I mean, this can be at age like 18, right, where a boy becomes a man, right? The mind over the matter. This can be like age 8, right? Because there's a strong sort of father figure, or even a strong femininity in this household when it comes, that sort of initiates him into this manhood early on. Because in not so ancient past times, right, boys they would self-initiate into manhood pretty young. It wouldn't be like they're 55 years old, right? They would be initiated pretty early on when it comes to testing their limits and coming to really understanding how things work, right? So in order to understand how things work, you have to experience. You actually have to climb the tree. You have to actually build the canoe yourself, right? You actually have to go out there and do things. You have to interact. You have to participate, right? And in doing that, having that experience and learning how it works, is you're gonna fail. Like, you're gonna make a canoe and it's gonna sink. You're gonna climb a tree, you may fall. So there's this kind of overcoming death, or overcoming the fear of failure, that really like if you're skiing or surfing or horseback riding, there's always this kind of underlying fear, right, of something going wrong, right? And in the masculinity, what really self-initiates you further in doing these type of personal power activities is that you start to trust your embodiment. You start to trust your body, your ability to move, your ability to be aware of, wait a minute, something's off. Wait a minute, something's wrong. Wait, right? And that becomes the kind of the great masculinity gift, is to sense danger, to be sense danger, to be vigilant, to be attentive, to be aware, right? Because when you've got learning of the world and how things work, there's a sense of within the masculinity being 9 seconds ahead, 9 days, weeks, months ahead. And that is the sort of sensor system of a man who has that kind of instinct, where you have that bow and arrow and you have that animal, right? And you want to, it's almost like you shoot the arrow in a particular seconds, like where that animal's going to move to, right? But if all of us try to do that now, we be like have no idea. We would have no sense of like, where's the, like, what's this land, like, what are these trees, like, we would just have no sense of being plugged into it, right? So a lot of these wild men, the reason women are drawn to bad boys, right, because the bad boys, they have this type of this wild man, right? Except with these bad boys is that they're still going through it, right? And they haven't completed it, and they're still needing to experiment with it. So it's kind of like trial and error with it. But when, the wild man begins to have this self-control, the mind over matter, and starts to again, when a bad boy is like the fire's caught in the navel, right? The bad boy, where people say a bad boy is insensitive, inconsiderate, or narcissistic, is concerned about money, or sex addiction, or whatever that is, right? It's because the heat is trapped in the navel, right? And that can be corrected through the opening of the heart, right? And when you basically open up this sort of chamber of the heart, that excess heat that's kind of caught in the navel, that causes a lot of, the wild man has so much power. It could dance in the fire forever and never basically melt away, right? That's the kind of image. So it's just all caught in this, this lower chakra, right? That's about the sexual energy, right? The sexual drive. So that's why this bad boy, this sex drive, or this money drive, or whatever it is, I considers him a bad boy. But when he opens up the chamber of the heart, that fire can even out. You know what I'm saying? It can even out, instead of it just being bulky and this like this raging, like masculine, like bad boy, like type of thing. It can start to even out, right? You know what I'm saying? So even out. So you still can have that wild man, which every woman wants, right? That wild, man who's kind of bad boy, like a little edgy, but then he also, he's evening out with the fire of his heart. And the fire of his heart, it takes the red flame and it starts to turn it blue. So the bad boy is like this red flame of like sexual desire, and like, is very sly, and knows how to make things happen, right? Knows the game, how to play the game, right? It's like, I know how to play the game. And the bad boy's like, I've been in the world, I've experienced sex, money, I know the game. You want me to play the game with you? I'll play it, and I'll play it good. So it's almost like the bad boys test women. They say, I know how to play the game. You want me to play it with you? Because I'll play it, and I'll play it damn good. But women, when a man, that kind of bad boy, has a woman where she is like very firm, and she's not like really so easily like triggered by him, and not even like agitated by him, and not even like bothered by that, right? Like she just can, like, she can almost, like, her aura can actually hold him still. Her aura can actually like contain him. His beat, is all over the place type of bad boy. When she can like grab him and contain him and hold his interest, right? Because of her fire of the heart is actually more wild than his. And he's like, whoa, this woman is more wild than me when it comes to, her life force, right? She challenges my bad boy, whatever, fire of desire, right? And she can contain me. She can hold me down, right? Like wrestling. Like bad boys, just like they wrestle with women. Like that's what they wrestle with life. They're wrestling with everybody, right? They're like little wrestlers. And when, he meets a woman and she actually wrestles with him back. She plays the game with him, and I'm talking about this, you throw it at me, I throw it at you. I'm not talking about that back and forth, right? Where she wrestles with him and she actually holds him down in a way where her aura contains him, not cages him. That's different. That's not, I'm triggered and bothered and you agitate me, and like that kind of moodiness, right? The insecurity of a woman. It's almost like that containment. It's not, I'm caging you, I'm trying to control you, emotional, commotional. It's like the containment, where she can contain that fire, and all of a sudden that kind of opens this heart energy. All of a sudden you see these bad boys, whatever, this fire, desire, wild man on the run, right? This wild man on the run. It's all of a sudden you start to see that her fire is actually more wild than his. It actually consumes his fire. And almost like the fire of her heart actually engulfs him Instead of his whatever game he's playing engulfs her, she engulfs him. The fire of the heart, right? Her blue fire of the heart, which has everything to do with her creativity, everything to do with her sexuality and her celebratory energy. It becomes, because the wild man is drawn to wild things, exotic things, ecstatic things. So that's why when it sees the woman that has a heart frequency that is so exotic, so ecstatic, so exalted, right, with whatever she's doing, whatever it is in her own in sensual, sexual, physical movement, it's like that is basically cracks open the heart for that energy to raise up into the heart energy, into the throat, into the mind. And then that basically begins to transmute this heavy red and orange, like, drive for, power, money, sex. It starts to come this sort of drive for the self-control, this kind of drive for relationship harmony, right? This drive for mind over matter, which has to do with karma and like cause and effect and learning about that, right? And it also becomes this drive for actually, instead of trying to just cope with the enemy, like, let's say you hate your dad on the down low, right? Or you didn't like this relationship of the past and you're basically trying to bury it underneath your wild man, right? When you start to open up that heart, it's like there's a drive for, to actually want to bring that up, bring that out, whatever, he's locked away, the hating of the dad, or, the hating of the past relationships, or the ex-wife, or himself, right? Really, the hating is of himself in many ways. The guilt, the regret, the shame, the embarrassment, the foolishness, whatever, recklessness, impulsiveness, and he begins to let that come out. And the fire of the heart, that sort of blue, the royal blue fire of the heart, and the kind of even deeper magenta blue of the mind, basically it begins to, the wild man, instead of this bad boy, seeming crazy wild man, right, it becomes this wild man of artistry, where that's a different kind of artistry. Is like this, when you see, I always see a man skiing, right, and down a steep slope, and it's like, whoa, but you can see how elegant it is. He's wild, like how, wow, you're very daring to do that, but it's elegant because he has control. Now, bad boy wild man stuff, crazy wild man, it's like there's no control. It's like, I'm gonna I just want to let it all out and just go buck wild, right? But the elegant wild man is like you can see there's a control. It's still there, the kind of daring, sort of boldness of them, but there's also this kind of this controlled state, right, where that kind of controlled state allows the wild man to actually experience intimacy. You when you're loud and obnoxious and like, roaring all the time, right, as a wild man, in your, claiming of power, sex, money, there's no silence to actually receive the kind of response from the subtle realm, from the subtle earth. So the wild man, when he goes through whatever he needs to go through, right, as he's becoming a man, a warrior, there's a sense of there's a sense of freedom, but also peace. You know what I'm saying? There's relationship harmony, there's intimacy. There's no intimacy in the rah, right, all time. There's intimacy in the balance, you know what I'm saying? Even when you're skiing, if you're too much on the left, you'll topple over. If you're too much on the right, you'll topple over. You know what I'm saying? In surfing, too much forward, too much back, you topple over. Horseback riding, too much forward, too much back, you can't hold yourself. So that's what the man learns, is a sort of well-roundedness, a sort of, his dynamic potential, right? That, you know, the worldly matters will teach you how to get a job, how to climb up the ladder, how to get this amount salary. You know, will teach a man about what religion it comes from with his family. Will teach him about his own, you know, history of who he is as a white man, a black man, a Spanish man. But the personal power, something he experiences basically outside of the we call the worldly matters. It's something he experiences through his contact with his own self-control, which has to do with viewing the worldly matters and learning how things work, while also learning how you work as a man and what is your fulfillment. Because you may be this, that, and the other, this man with this socioeconomic, this type of religion, ideology, whatever that is, right? This type of ego or this type of insecurity. But you, when you can contact with the personal you, personal power in you, like your own inherent sort of niche, right? That's you. Every warrior is different, has a different kind of quality. When you start to connect with the qualities of you as a man, that is you, right? And every, you know, like every warrior in a tribe, like they represent a different quality. And sometimes, you know, warriors are there's a animal is this kind of a symbolic representation of the type of warrior they are, right? Like you'll see like the bear type of symbolism, or you'll see the hawk type of symbolism, or the buffalo type of symbolism, right? Or the crow or the horse, these type of things. And it basically is a symbolic representation of the quality that they have as in their personal power, right? And society won't really teach you that quality that is you, right? There has to be an independent thinking. There has to be a sort of sovereignty of a man's mind, a sort of mind over matter, to really uncover the sort of animal spirit that is him, right? Because if you're just in worldly matters, I mean, you know, really there's no sense of animal spirit, you know, in our fast moving type of, you know, seeming society that is sort of, in many ways, it can seem that it's sort of taking away this human and nature type of interaction we've had for thousands of years, right? Especially in the major cities that are, right? But even not in the major cities, I've seen like you know, these farms that are not even being used, right? There were, you know, grandparents, great grandparents would use them, and now they're just kind of land, right? And the grandchildren don't know really even the land and how to work it, right? So there's a sort of disconnect with that. So that's the man is there's the personal power is the sovereignty of mind that he basically develops either voluntarily, involuntarily, when he is when the wild man basically challenges him. It will literally, the wild man will like look him in the mirror, you know, look him in the face, right? And will say like, everything you've been taught is a lie, like these type of things, like your belief system is crap, you know. It will be rough. Like the wild man will wrestle with a man and tell you, you know, the hating of your father needs to stop, right? Because it's affecting your relationship with your wife, right? So, you know, the wild man will be like, you know, very, very, you know, it will sharpen your senses so that you can really, as a wild man, you want to have intimacy. And if sometimes when, you know, we're in this world and we're used to kind of hiding and being a persona and wearing a mask and just trying to get by and just so concerned about controlling things outside of ourselves, that sometimes we lose that own sort of instinct when it comes to ourselves, that sensitivity when it comes to, you know, the self-control within what is in our own personal growth and development when it comes to this relationship with my wife or with my kids, right? So the wild man in many ways will like let you know like life is important or life is precious, right? right? Death is upon you, that type of Grim Reaper type of thing, right? That kind of death feeling that sometimes the wild, you can get, you know, the wild man experiences, that sort of near death type of wake up call, is so that it can get you as a man, can get you moving, right, towards the life force in the life of you that is so much more than just this type of ego or identity or domination submission, or this type of, you know, power that there is, but then also there's this sort of powerlessness with it, right? That's a constant sort of back and forth people have, where they feel the power and then they feel the powerless, and the power and then the powerless, and then that kind of whiplash type of thing, right? But the personal power is the kind of warrior in the man, where the power of whatever, you know, can fall, of the world's whatever power standing in the world can fall, right? As if, you know, always, you know, things are being refashioned all the time. But the personal power is that enduring type of power, that even if these sort of power structures fall, the personal power is that enduring power that can generate enough heat or enough energy to basically build oneself back up again, right? And that is the sort of test of the chief, and the test of the warriors when they go to these battles, and there's, you know, these major karma for that, and the, you know, having to build oneself back up again, right? Having to overcome death, right? Having to liberate oneself from these sort of traumas of war. And also, the great test of man is learning how to have enough self-control to not so easily be forced by the world into these battles with these enemies that could be these never-ending cycles of a man just in a destroying energy, which we know very well, a never-ending cycle of destroying type of the enemy, that who knows, everybody's enemy type of thing, that kind of constant destroying that really ends within a man when the heart transmission of the feminine consciousness, of femininity, begins to become the sort of engulfing, prevailing royal blue flame that basically contains and grabs all the men and holds them, puts them down in their place, right? That wild man, it contains that wild man, gives a sort of balance to that wild man, so that he has more of an even footing with what his life force is actually for, right? Instead of the life force just being used just to create a battle, or just for the killing, or just for the destroying, right? But to understand the kind of cosmic law of why are you destroying, right? The sort of soulful philosophical meaning behind that, right? To restore the kind of equilibrium in the wild man, right? And that's the full circle, what do you call the circle of life, right? And that's why all these animals in the circle of life, there's an equilibrium, because there's an understanding that all the wild animals have when it comes to the cause and effect, the karma, the sort of universal principles that keep creation in a sort of state of equilibrium. And when it's not in a state of equilibrium, when it comes to, wildlife, wild animals and everything, there's going to be a correction, even an extinction, right? Even a sort of mass depopulation, or just a mass sort of destruction will happen to repair the equilibrium, right? And that's the goddess of creation. That's the heart transmission, and all of that within a man it manifests in his kind of embodying this masculinity. It really manifests as intimacy, like intimacy that is very soothing, right? Because the wild man, that fire, it must be soothed, right? That's equilibrium. Too hot, you need to get it a little cold. Cold, get it hot, right? So the masculinity, the intimacy soothes the wild man. That unconditional love of the femme consciousness, or the femininity of this planet, it actually soothes the wild man. It actually supports the kind of releasing out of the heart these aches and pains and these sort of hates and these type of, this destructive sort of flames inside of him. So that, in that kind of venting it out, in that kind of releasing of, through that sort of royal blue energy, releasing that out of the heart, venting that out, letting that out, that wild man becomes this great movement that is really artistically just divine, right? Just so poetically, artistically free, right? Free to share the love through a song or a chant or a dance, or to share the love for the spouse through deep sex, or to really be okay with their this animal totem, or I like to say this sort of animal spirit that they have, right? Instead of battling it and questioning it and trying to push it away, and then having that constant I don't feel accepted, they're not gonna like me, I'm embarrassed, my ego says no, that kind of pushing and pulling. There becomes this this intimacy, this kind of, okay, I have this peace. Finally, the battle has reached this place of peace, which is basically the ego is no longer so attached to the worldly matters and this, that, and the other. It becomes to peace when the wild man faced that near death and kind of wakes up, right, from whatever, restlessness that he's been in, and starts to be soothed by his own poetry, by his own creativity, by his own just expressing intimacy. That's what the wild man is there for men, is to teach them intimacy. But sometimes you don't learn intimacy until you really overcome these type of fears that are gripping to you, or that are holding you down, that you're constantly battling with, because your ego doesn't want to look at it because it's embarrassed, or it's shamed, or it's judgmental, or it has all of this I'm not good enough type of stuff that makes you feel really crappy when you do look at that thing, or have that thing come up, right? But when you're soothed, there's this intimacy where your ego finally is held down in a way that is most reverent, right? That allows you to really raise this new energy within the ego, which is basically the ego, but it has this soulful fearlessness to it, right? Where this intimacy you have with this life force, it becomes quite artistic. It becomes quite expressive in this real, true personal power, which is unconditional love of masculinity. It's just a different pathway, right? Women, unconditional love, the pathway for women towards unconditional love is different. The pathway towards men, the pathway for men towards unconditional love is one that has that wild man that can be quite vigorous and use that fire and all the sweating and all of that type of battling yourself. While for women, that pathway towards unconditional love has a lot to do with the amplifying the heart frequency and meditating it even deeper within the body. So it's a little bit, it seems simpler, but also has the masculine component, right? We all have that masculine component within us that, we all, we're battling something within ourselves, right? The ego that we have within ourselves, right? Until we really develop this intimacy within our life, where we are, we're able to no longer feel powerless or weakened by these type of human conditions that we're presented with in the world, right? You know, your sex, your age, your nationality, your race, all, you know, your status quo. You have this perceived disability, you're not attractive enough, these human conditions that create so much judgment, shame, and feelings of not being good enough. And, you know, when we start to really, especially as a man, move into that wild man, it's basically we want to create a fire and we want to burn all that shit down. So that we can really embody something that actually, you know, has substance. It's not so, you know, feeling powerless, right? Because of these interlocks or these attachments we have to these people, places, or things that really are not for our personal power, not really for us, right? And having that kind of wild man experience to, you know, put it into the fire ceremony. Right, so whenever there's a wild man, I always sing a great fire ceremony, right? So we're going to tune in now, okay? So we had a discussion about the wild man and the wild man's initiation process into manhood, right? So bring your hands together. Okay, rub them, create some heat. The palms awaken the brain through getting contact with the palms of the hand. Okay, bring them here at the heart. Press the thumbs towards the sternum. Roll the shoulders back and down. Tuck in the chin. Inhale. Exhale long and deep. Straighten the spine. We're going to tune in with Ong, O-N-G, Namo, Gurudev, Namo. We're calling in the teachers, the wise ones, that are going to help us connect with a profound experience of transformation. You can also put your intention of what it is that you're wanting to transform. And if you don't know, it will come to you like a great sort of instinctual knowing that you will have, right? It will just come at you, right? So inhale, exhale. Inhale to begin. Om Namo Gurudev Namo. Om Namo Gurudev Namo. Om Hold the breath, squeeze up and in, squeeze sex organ, rectum, navel, belly button to spine. Tuck in the chin slightly, press the tongue on the roof of the mouth. Exhale. Now imagine 4 pillars of light all around you. As we do our protection mantra, okay, with each sound, you're going to spin the energy clockwise, starting right behind you, left ahead of you. Imagining a royal blue flame that's flaming very fast all around you. And imagine you're seated, you're plugged into a royal blue flame, a bush, a royal burning bush that's starting from the perineum, that's burning all the way up the entire chakra system, all the way up to the crown of the head. Okay, so inhale to begin. Adgadename, Jagadgadename, Sadgadename, Siddhi Gurudev Vename. Adgadename, Jagadgadename, Sadgadename, Siddhi Gurudev Vename. Adgadename, Jagadgadename, Sadgadename, Siddhi Gurudev Vename. Inhale. Hold the breath, squeeze up and in. Exhale. Now we're going to begin cat-cow. So inhale through the nose, exhale through the nose. You're going to really stick the butt out. You're going to really open up the throat, focusing on that thyroid, which brings this deep balance and sense of calmness into your life. And then when you round the back, you're going to tuck in the chin. You're You're going to really squeeze belly button to spine, and you're going to really experience the pelvic area being pushed forward and up, which allows you to really activate the lower abdominal area, which will open up the help the navel to activate. Inhale, stick the butt up, open the throat, squeeze sex organ rectum, navel to spine. Exhale, round the back, squeeze. Then inhale long and deep through the nose as you bring your forehead to the earth and your hands in prayer above the head. And if you have a prayer, an intention, an experience you would like to have within the physical body, you can set that intention, download it into the frontal lobe, the earth, and it will happen. Okay, inhale, exhale, and then come seated. And we're gonna do a breath of fire, which is an even inhale, exhale through the nose, feeling the belly, the navel move towards the spine. And then you're gonna have your hands in ego eradicator, which we'll do, the thumbs out, the fingers on the finger mounds. You're lifting it up at a 60-degree, opening up the heart. Really, you're literally opening up the heart chamber so that heat kind of can be caught in the navel in men, where they're just so like thick in the sort of masculine energy where they can't listen. You know, the whole saying is men don't listen, right? That's a common thing, right? And many times with men, it's just a part of their design, right? Their life lesson is, with men, you kind of have to repeat it, right? And that's why women in relationship, they're always like repeating and repeating, right? But a man who is starting to like kind of bring that heat up into the heart, right? There's a sense of, they don't necessarily need to hear it, they can sense it, right? But a woman can be so complex that they may be picking up on something and a woman's already on something else, right? Because women, you know, men need to understand that, you know, men, they have a sort of slower type of, you know, I like to say a sort of spin of the aura. Women, when they're in their sort of creativity, the aura is like spinning very, very fast. And men can have that sort of spin within their auras as well, but since men can have more of a grounded fire here in this sort of navel, you know, point, this breath of fire, their aura can be a lot more seeming grounded in the way that it can have a more steady orbit, we'll say, or steady rotation. Well, since women, we're so dynamic and multi-dimensional, multi-talented, we're like on one thing and then on the next thing, like that, right? And we know how to handle that kind of movement. And for us as women, the sort of spit, the kind of where you can focus your energy on something and complete it, is when we start to basically ground all of that heart energy, that fast moving heart energy, into the navel, right? So that's kind of a experience. So begin the breath of fire.
Inhale. Squeeze up and in. Press the tongue on the roof of the mouth. Bring the thumbs together. Fingers out like antennas, reaching up. Stretch the spine. Exhale. Bring the hands down. Kind of sweep them through the aura slowly. Bring the fingertips to the earth for a moment to ground your awareness in your body. You're wanting to connect with your body, the embodiment, which is more than the physical. It's the 10 body swirl, the 10 body spiral, right? That makes you feel very well integrated in this incarnation, where we're not scattered in kind of lost in space type of thing. Okay, now we're going to do a breath of fist of anger. So bring the thumb to the pinky mount, fingers over the thumb, right? You're going to bring your arms around your head very fast as you do a breath of fire through the O-shaped mouth. And you're going to close your eyes, focus on the anger, the resentment, the frustration, the agitation, the bitterness, all of that sort of tight tension we have in the heart chakra, in the navel, even in the psychomagnetic field, where we keep whirlwinding around the same grievance, the same pain, the same memory that's kind of blocking our view of our future potential. You're just gonna blow that all out. You're gonna basically wrestle and battle it until you feel you have control of yourself, right? Get really angry. Let the beast, the wild man come out. Become mad, become crazy, insane with rage. Bring up that red fire. This can save your life from destroying yourself out of impulse. Now inhale, interlace the fingers, bring the Palms facing up the earth. Sip out the air through the O-shaped mouth. Squeeze, hold. Now see pure white light all around you. Pure light, white light. Press the tongue on the roof of the mouth. Squeeze, stretch. And you're calm. You're peaceful. Let your heart soothe you. Exhale. Cannon fire. And then sweep the hands through the aura, bringing that white light, that very calming, soothing energy, that mother energy into the aura. And then bring the fingertips to the earth. And I want you to visualize the heart, see the white flame of the heart, called the Mother Mary, right? The white flame of the heart is seen as Mother Mary, right? Holding, praying at a candle, right? So see that within your heart, the white flame of the heart as a sort of symbolic meaning that takes you into this visualization of Mother Mary praying at a white candle. Connect with the mother of the soulful energy of masculinity, sharing the universal power of masculinity. Okay, inhale, exhale. Now the last little adjustment we'll do before we go into the Kriya. We're gonna do diction meditation, right? With the male archetype, a lot of this heat can get very much trapped in these, we call this navel point, right? And that can be very frustrating. I mean, men and women, right? Male body, female body, you know, in general, this energy can get locked into the navel, locked in, right? So the hate of the father and the seek and the down low and these, you know, this human condition locks in this heat and cages the wild man from truly making that wild journey out of the caged confinements into the heart, right? Where the wild man feels most content in his artistic sort of movement with these type of worldly conditions that he's presented with, right? As a test of his sort of the test of his movement, right? And his ability to maneuver himself through that, right? So you're gonna have your thumb on the temples right here, tuck in the chin, spine tall. You're gonna have your fingers on the finger mounds like this. You're gonna inhale long and deep. You're gonna press the tongue on the roof of the mouth. You're gonna mentally recite Sa Ta Nama as many times as you can while holding the breath. When you can't hold the breath any longer, you exhale very long and deep, and then you repeat, right? Oh, again, with each Satanama, you're bringing the back molars together. So Satanama, okay? So inhale, begin. Inhale. Exhale. Now take a moment, relax, have the hands in Gyan Mudra resting on the knees, and then just take in the activation. By just being here yourself, initiating yourself into a cosmic vibration that is already embedded in you from many, many generations of you. It's just more about activating it, exalting it, actually making it meaningful, right? Instead of it just being kind of hanging on to you, you actually want to ingrain it in you. You actually want to sort of massage it into your experience, okay? So the first thing we're going to do in the part of this Kriya, as a sort of self-initiation, right, of the personal power, the person who gives light. A person gives light, gives energy to what they do, right? It's not just the sex, the money, kind of just going with it and having no personality with it, no sort of radiance to it, no sort of creation with it, right? So we want to bring more creation to the way that we maneuver and move, right? Okay, so the first thing that we're going to do is you're going to hold the hands here at the heart, interlacing the fingers. And you're going to just kind of stretch the arms out, kind of tucking the chin slightly, lifting the heart up. And you're just going to hold and sort of like you're pulling out. And just breathe long and deep through the nose. Breathe long and deep. Pull, pull. Now travel inside yourself to meet your Father. Go to your Father and face your Father, and in your mind's eye, speak to your Father, share with your Father what you feel about, how you feel about His transference of masculine energy into you as a young boy. You're unlocking some of the stored the father insecurities in the navel, moving it up into the heart chamber where it can be reflected upon and transformed, instead of recycling it through the same thought pattern, behavior, habit. Inhale. Exhale. Now bring it all the way up and then pump the navel. Wild pump. Stretch. And you want to feel as though you're pumping the father up into the heart. And then you see the mother at the heart. And you begin to face the mother as you pump the father in towards the heart, seeing the father and the mother side by side. And face the mother, let her know how you feel about her transference of conditional and unconditional love. Just breathe long and deep and just pump a sort of even pump, 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 pump. Now ask yourself, how would you like to redefine the father archetype, the mother archetype? How, in your expanded awareness, how would you like to redefine the father, the mother? Inhale. Exhale. Now, you're going to come onto your back. We're going to do stretch pose. So you're going to lift your head up. You're going to have your feet out. You're lifting 6 inches off the ground. Your hands are towards your feet. You're going to do a breath of fire. You're going to be pumping the navel, and you're going to be looking towards the feet. And you really want to sweat out, feel like you're sweating out that kind of the holding pattern you have in the sort of relay with the father, with the mother. You want to sort of be that sort of breakthrough, right? Inhale, stretch, squeeze belly button to spine, press the tongue on the upper palate, exhale, hold.
now rock and roll and come up. And then you're going to come all the way up until you're standing and folding over the legs. Folding over the legs. And then what you're going to do is you're just going to kind of jump up wildly, like some kind of galloping horse. So begin galloping like this, right? But you really want to come high, right? Right? And then what you want to begin to do is, like, you're gathering energy and you're pounding it to the heart. So you want to bring out the wild, pounding the earth, putting into the heart. And just keep going continuously. Okay, inhale, exhale, come down, okay. And then come seated. Take a moment. Feel that sort of heat. Okay. Interlace your fingers back again, and with the drum.
Bring them here. The heart. Twist left to right. Inhale to the left, exhale to the right. Let that energy move up the spine. Inhale, exhale. Now bring your legs, stretch them forward. I'm going to use a mantra now. Reach back. Hud. 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 Hold it like right here, right across the navel, like you're stretching. Hud. 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 Power, go back. Hud. Like really pull. Hud. 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 Press the tongue on the roof of the mouth. Hud. 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 Lock it in. Hud. 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 Power. Hud. In the navel. Hud. Imagine you're rowing. Hud. Use that sort of strength. Hud. 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 Hud.
hud, 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 row, hud, power, hud, 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 row, hud, 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 hud. Now inhale, exhale. Now keep your legs straight out. Keep the spine tall. I like to do is I like to put a pillow, right, or sort of blanket, fold up a blanket. You can even have a couple pillows underneath you so that you're on a downward slope, so you feel more connected to the spine when it comes to the fold of the hips, right? So now we're going to change the mantra, so pay attention. Reaching the side, hud. So it's like you're pulling that water and you're splashing yourself. You're splashing over your heart. But it's not like a sloppy, it's... Then you can go fast. Fast, fast. Hada, hada, waheguru, hada, hada, waheguru, hada, hada, waheguru, hada, hada, waheguru. Look at the tip of the nose. Hada, hada, waheguru, hada, hada, waheguru, hada, hada, waheguru, hada, hada, waheguru. You should feel almost like you're fanning your heart. Hada, hada, waheguru, 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 hada, waheguru, hada, 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 hada,
Waheguru, hara, hara, Waheguru. Now inhale, hold it here at the heart. Have left hand closest to the heart, right hand over left. Holding it like almost like wings of a bird here at the heart. About 2 inches away. And then press the back hand, resist. Left hand's pushing out, right hand's pushing in, elbows out, open the armpits. Create that sort of tension to help you clear out the tension you have in the body. Inhale, exhale, relax. Bring the legs together. Hold the hands at the top of the head or the soft spot of a baby's head. You're gonna come back, but try to keep your legs on the ground. And you're just gonna look up. Focus on the spot. Now close the eyes. Inhale long and deep. Okay, inhale. Exhale, come straight back up. Just feel the adjustment you're making in the body. So then what we're going to do is we're going to go side, slow, side, back. And you're going to use a mantra. So listen and follow and then kind of repeat. You're going deep into the Kundalini. So then just listen to the mantra as they do the movement. Ra, 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 ma, 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 sa, ta, na, ma, sa, ta, na, ma, ra, 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 ma, 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 sa, ta, na, ma, sa, ta, na, ma, ra, 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 ma, 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 sa, ta, na, ma, sa, ta, na, ma. So you see I'm rotating towards the clockwise, okay? Ra, 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 ma, 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 sa, ta, na, ma, sa, ta, na, ma, ra, 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 ma, 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 sa, ta, na, ma, sa, ta, na, ma, ra, 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 ma, 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 sa, ta, na, ma, sa, ta, na, ma, ra, 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 ma, 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 sa, ta, na, ma, sa, ta, na, ma, ra, 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 ma, 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 sa, ta, na, ma, sa, ta, na, ma, ra, 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 ma, 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 sa, ta, na, ma, sa, ta, na, ma, ra, 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 ma, 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 sa,
Satanama, Satanama, Ra 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 Ra, Ma 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 Ma, Satanama, Satanama, Ra 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 Ra, Ma 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 Ma, Satanama, Satanama, Ra 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 Ra, Ma 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 Ma, Satanama, Satanama, Ra 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 Ra, Ma 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 Ma, Satanama, Satanama, Ra 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 Ra, Ma 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 Ma, Satanama, Satanama, Ra 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 Ra, Ma 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 Ma, Satanama, Satanama, Ra 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 Ra, Ma 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 Ma, Satanama, Satanama, Ra 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 Ra, Ma 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 Ma, Satanama, Satanama, Ra 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 Ra, Ma 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 Ma, Satanama, Satanama. Inhale, hold the breath, exhale. Now just have a very straight spine as we're going to input this particular frequency. This is the Adi Shakti frequency, which is a powerful frequency for the Divine Masculine. The Adi Shakti claims a man's soul, helps a man out of the ghost land of his warlike behavior, brings him out of the ghost land and brings him into the heart of the earth for him to be broken into pieces so that he can be reborn and remade by the hands of the divine. Listen. So just listen, soak it up into your ears. Let it soak, like when you're underwater and your ears are soaked. Just listen, feel its vibration. And then you're going to begin to follow. Open the twist left, twist right, twist straight up, hold, and then twist, 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 twist. Now bring up the fire. Well, hold on. Continue to twist, sorry. Oh, wait, no, it's tapping the shoulders.
And then bring the Kundalini up. Like you're almost like when you're in the morning and you're just waking up. You just and then bring the hands together in prayer. And then kind of bring it down the central channel. Reach left, reach right. Reach straight up. Hold. And then begin to twist. Inhale to the left, exhale to the right. Hold it out. Tap. Tap. Tap both. And then kind of wash it away, like wash it off the body. And then kind of bring the hands up from the earth and then up like you're stretching in the morning. And then reach one armpit, reach another armpit, like you're reaching for a bar, grabbing a bar. And then bring the hands together. And bring it down to the heart. To the right, up. Hold. Twist. You're working with the brain. Hit the chest. And then both. And then it's kind of clean it, wipe it off the body. And then kind of like you're pulling the sort of Kundalini and moving it up. Reach armpit, reach other armpit. Bring the hands together, and then down as you kind of rotate the spine. Look back, left, look back, right, straight up. Hold the breath, hold the breath. Press the tongue on the roof of the mouth, squeeze, exhale, twist. Reach out, 60-degree angle. Swipe it down. I want you to see the royal blue flame moving up the spine, and you're ecstatic by it. Stretching left body up, left side, right side. And then Namo, hands together, bring it down to the heart. Inhale, exhale, inhale up, hold, squeeze, exhale, twist. And inhale. Press the hands firm together. Exhale. Now what you're going to do is you're going to lift up the bottom and you're going to lift it down. So you're going to kind of throw yourself up and down. Shocking the system. So you're just lifting up. You want to bring yourself up and down. You really lift it up. Like you see, I'm moving up and down. What you're doing is you're releasing the hold you have on whatever habit or way of thinking, fixation, fixed energy. You want to create a space. Move it up, move it out, move it through, move it down. So I have my knees towards my heart as I kind of come up with my feet and my hands. It's almost like I'm trying to come up, but then I fall down. Breathe long and deep. And then straight spine, and then just bring the legs up and down the knees. Up and down. What you're doing is you're releasing the hips, opening up the energy in the hips, the whole spine. Breathe very deeply. You're not here for long, so just really up, down, put some pressure. Okay, inhale, straight spine, relax. And then the last thing you'll do is you're gonna have your feet, legs wide. You can feel the energy moving in places that it's probably never moved before. So just relax, spine tall, inhale through your nose, exhale through your nose. So I was looking for this particular, let's see. This one's also going to challenge the mind, the brain. So just relax the legs open, spine tall. Okay, so we're going to do this particular Okay, so this is what we're going to do. So just have your hands relaxed, Gyan Mudra on the knees, and you're just going to feel the sort of channel moving up. So we're focusing on sa, sa, re, ga, ma, pa, da, ni, sa, dan. So sa, re, ga, ma, pa, da, ni, sa, da, na, ma. So if you don't have the range, that's fine, right? So just do whatever works for your body. You can even go lower, but we're working with the full range of our energy. So just relax. You can listen to me, and then you can go into it. So sa, re, ga, ma, pa, da, ni, sa, da, na, ma. So he's working with the breath. So just feel the breath. You can go lower. You can go sa, re, ga, ma, pa, da, ni, sa, da, na, ma. Okay, so you're connecting this base root energy, right? Connecting it to higher celestial energies. So it's a big breath. So inhale very deeply. Sa, re, ga, ma, pa, da, ni, sa, da, na, ma. Right? So just figure it out, right? Help you, figure something out within this, right? Sa, re, ga, ma, pa, da, ni, sa, da, na, ma. Okay, deep breath. When you exhale through each sound, you're exhaling a little bit, so you're not sa, da, you know what I'm saying? You're not spitting it out. And you want to feel the pelvic floor. So we're holding our legs open so we can feel that the pelvic floor is holding this sound current in the body. And the navel, the pelvic floor, the navel point is the container that's kind of holding it in together so it's not spilling and leaking out, right? So you want to work with that kind of movement of the body. So inhale. Sa re ga ma pa da ni sa da na ma. Sa re ga ma pa da ni sa da na ma. Sa re ga ma pa da ni sa da na ma. So you're creating a vertical line, right? We get very horizontal, especially masculine energy, horizontal, right? The vertical is the elders. We think of elders, right? Think of the ancestors and the ground and the elders. We think of the wisdom, right? And creating that vertical line within us so that we can feel more centered within this person that we are. Sa re ga ma pa da ni sa da na ma. Again, you can go total octave lower. Sa re ga ma pa da ni sa da na ma. Right? I'm trying to like do different ranges, but you'll feel it. It's a practice where you're feeling into sound. That's how we vibrate the cosmos. You feel into what works with the sound that you're tapping, listening to your own sound, right? When you can love your sound, you have fallen in love with yourself. When we fall in love with sound, and we say the smell, but there's a sound that we really fall in love, mesmerized, exalted by the sound. And it can be such a subtle sound that we don't even really can hear it, but we're drawn to it. Sa re ga ma pa da ni sa da na ma. Sa re ga ma pa da ni sa da na ma. Accessing the full range, right? Sa re ga ma pa da ni sa da na ma. Right? And you can create this motion with your hands as the energy moves, because you want to see it moving, not just zoop, zoop. You want to see it moving, like you're massaging it into yourself, right? Sa re ga ma pa da ni sa da na ma. Sa re ga ma pa da ni sa da na ma. Sa re ga ma pa da ni sa da na ma. One more. Sa re ga ma pa da ni sa da na ma. And then inhale. And then just sort of kind of move forward, and move forward straight out from the voice. Sa ta na ma, 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 sa ta na ma. You feel in the heart, right? Satanama, 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 Satanama. Inhale, exhale, and just relax into the sound. And then feel the kind of softening, unfolding of the heart, and see it just kind of letting go and just opening and just coming out. Bring your legs together. Just see the heart opening. See it like a red rose. See into the heart. See the red rose budding, opening, just coming out, coming alive. See it, just feel it. Focus on the red rose at the heart. Just feel the stem, your spine, the roots deep in the earth. Just feel the sort of peace, the contentment, the peace, the contentment. See the restlessness, the red of restlessness, anxiousness. It's not enough. I need to get it. I need to compete. I need to slave my way somewhere. That kind of draining of that energy, kind of selling yourself cheap, fitting in instead of fitting yourself. Just see that all being structured into that red rose, this perfect fit, consolidated energy, usage of energy that is harmonious, that is trusting in the laws of nature, that is in a self-control. See that contained state of that red rose, yourself contained like that red rose. See it now, focus, go into it. See the structural design of the red rose and how geometrically sound, valid, the whole design, the whole constitutional body is absolutely in this cosmic intelligence. See that self-control, the discipline of that red rose, and see how free it is to die, to be coming to life again. Right? See that intention of you, which is to simply build up a personal power, a person that is connected to a vital storage of energy, a source of energy within one's own fire that is contained and yet, like the red rose, wildly expressive, bright. It stands on its own. Doesn't need to grab. It grabs naturally. The red rose of the heart, focusing on that element of earth, viewing the earth element through the portal of the red rose to see into the window of your personal power, your elegance, your stature, your growth that comes into you through these wild expressions of color, of interaction with the different elements, with this sort of freedom to move through time and space, to reach one's victory. Now see the humility of that, the time, the space, the personal power stored in the deeper structures of you. You don't need to pour everything out. Allow these things to seep and to pour deeper into you, to let your senses awaken. Don't need to hustle, hassle. Let the laws of nature unravel, unfold, to reveal in the sensual sensitivity of your own sound, the subtle vibration, the
vibrating instrument of your heart. Tap in, listen to the red rose, hear it, sense it. Now eat it, consume, so that you may nourish yourself with that has substance, that has nutrients. And feel it going into the belly, and the nutrients it is weaving into your metabolic system, the navel point, this very soothed energy to release the fire, relax the fire. Let some of that excess built up tension just eliminate out. And see that built up tension eliminating out of your body. Like draining out of you, draining out of the body. Making that full circle. Inhale, exhale. Bring the hands together. We'll tune out with one long sat and short nam. Inhale. Sat, nam, sat, nam, sat, nam. Thank you for joining me. Now this is a very deep sort of initiation process that all cultures that have sort of tribal roots, which every culture does, there's a kind of space for girls and boys to initiate themselves into the art we call the art of living, right? Or the art of receiving your destiny, or receiving these teachings that come to philosophers or poets or musicians or scientists just through a kind of deep reflection one has on a flower, or if you're on a tree, right? These in this simple sort of natural science is something as this training of a shaman is how we're able to open up the channel for these type of these activations to take place within the different chakra system, the different bodies that help us as woman, as man, really come into a more fulfilling interaction with our experiences that leads to a sort of full circle, a sort of completion, a sort of mastery, rather than getting kind of incomplete, fragmented, sort of scrambled pieces that don't make sense, right? And then kind of, what is all that, right? So it kind of smooths things out. Initiation smooths things out and lets you kind of open up to be able to kind of let these energies move in, right? These tough energies that they kind of cling and get kind of caught in us, and kind of let some things move out, so the spaces can be receptive to your personal power to fill that up, right? So that you can exalt it further through intimacy that is not just sexual. It could be with your father, right? In that kind of battle, or that kind of enemy that's in you, or you see it in them, or whatever that enemy is, you can kind of have that intimacy, that enemy, that battle will start holding this
understanding of your personal strength, right? Your ability to direct and redirect, right? Into honor, into shed, into transform. So I'll leave you guys with that in Sat Nam.